the U.S. Constitution, as I like to joke, available in paperback. And I show everybody this. Congress is to promote the progress of science and useful arts.
That's in the Constitution.
Yes, the word science in 1787. Science is in the Constitution.
Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to Alive. Made you a cup of tea. There you go. So, question for you. Would you consider yourself a critical thinker? Yeah? Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think that I am. I certainly try to be, because I just feel that it's so important, especially right now. In the moment that we currently live in, it seems that the scientific method, critical thinking, testing your assumptions before asserting your beliefs, these don't feel like intellectual exercises. They feel almost like survival skills in a world this full of mis and disinformation, right? So I had very recently an amazing conversation with one of the true goats of critical thought, Mr. Bill Nye, the guy of science himself. And it was really fascinating, because it's always an honor and a joy to talk to him. But it was really great to hear his thoughts on the topic. So check that out, and I'll be here when you get back. I would love to hear what you think.
Okay. All right. Today we are talking to Bill Nye, the science guy. And he has spent the better part of 3 decades standing up for science, for reason, and that elusive yet imperative human trait in crazy rare supply right now, intellectual integrity. He's battled climate denial, creationism, conspiracy culture, and the slow erosion of trust in basic fact. And behind the awesome bow tie, the lab coat, the hilarity, there is a serious mission to remind us that the universe is knowable and that evidence still matters. And in addition to all that, Bill's lived quite a life. He's an engineer. He's a comedian. He's got like a dozen books. I think he has something like 4 patents. He's a chef. He does ultimate frisbee, and he's a super fancy dancer, which is something I'm very jealous about. Oh, he's here. Hey, Bill, how you doing?
Steve.
It is so good to see you. Legitimately so good to see you. I've told you I'm a huge fan, and it is awesome that you came by today. And I mean, look at us, right? Just a couple of old kids' TV show hats. Couple of old hats. Back at it again.
Yes.
And it's, I flatter myself to say that we were sort of peers back in the day, briefly.
Yeah. Well, we were contemporaries for sure.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we had in common, Steve, is we were focused on kids.
Yeah.
And by that, I mean people 10 years old and younger.
Yeah.
It's good to see you, but there's so many YouTube people that's good doing education on the electric internet machines. But what set your show and my show apart, I think, was focusing on very young people.
Yeah. What was your demographic? Did you have like a specific?
Well, our demographic is quite large, but we have very compelling research that 10 years old is about as old as you can be to get the so-called lifelong passion for science.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I think it's as old as you can be to get the lifelong passion for anything.
Why do you think that is?
It's the nature of our brains, I guess. But I got to tell you, it wasn't my idea. This was research done by the National Science Foundation, the Department of Energy, and the Department of Education. And so we embraced that and addressed the Science Guy show at people in fourth grade. But that turns out to be pretty good level for everybody. Fourth grade is
Yeah.
pretty accessible for a lot of people.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I mean, I didn't know that there was sort of like some sweet spot chronologically for curiosity.
Well, if it's not 10, it's 12 or whatever. It's not 25.
Do you think I've always thought this, that a sense of wonder, a sense of curiosity, all of that is kind of an innate, inherent superpower that we're born with, right, out of necessity. And we sort of unlearn it as we get older.
Well, everybody talks about that, but
Yeah.
I've never unlearned it, and all my engineering buddies never unlearn it. So I don't know. I know what you mean. People stop taking chances,
Yeah.
stop trying to learn new things because
Right.
it gets harder and harder. And a classic example is language.
Right.
You know, people who are 4 years old can speak apparently 3 languages. Is pretty
Yep.
straightforward for most people, 4 years old. But by the time you're 14 or 24 years old, you're going to have an accent.
Yeah.
It's intuitive. I mean, just based on everybody's experience, you meet people who speak Spanish and English without without an accent in either language, just because they learned it when they learned them both before they were 5 or 6 years old.
Right. And there's something extra important in my view, and I think you share this view about using television educationally because of that neuroplasticity of that age group.
Well, you guys, everybody, I am a product, and I think, Steve, you're a product, Blue's Clues is a product of the Children's Television Act.
Yeah, that's true.
So everybody back in the 20th century, 1990s, people, grown-ups, were concerned that children's television was becoming a sort of a half-hour ad for toys. And I
For
get it.
sure.
If you're a kid and you're into, say, Spider-Man, who does whatever a spider can,
Yeah, he does.
you want a Spider-Man action figure.
Badly.
And it's cool. I totally get it. But that was perhaps missing an opportunity with kids staring at the TV to get some educational material across. And so you and I benefited from that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, your show and my show were for decidedly different age groups. But I always kind of saw our show as an on-ramp to your show.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because we kind of had a similar mission. We kind of had a similar goal. You were teaching the scientific process. We were teaching preschool deductive reasoning, critical thinking. All I did was run around the house and look for evidence, right? That we could then think about critically before we formed our opinion. Like that's what we were doing, you know?
I watched your show a bit. I didn't hear the word critical very much because you didn't need it.
Right. No, we were just modeling it. You know, we weren't saying it. We were just doing it, you know?
I'm on board. Yes.
But there's a question I've always wanted to ask you about. Like, so we spent all of this time and all of this energy doing this. And now those kids are adults. And it sometimes feels to me like, I don't know, a whole bunch of them believe that the earth is flat and possibly inhabited by, interdimensional reptile creatures and stuff. And do you ever take that personally?
Well, I say all the time, half jokingly, or maybe 5/8 jokingly, I failed. My life's been a failure, yes. So this in the last year, I've met 3 different people from 3 different walks of life who asked me or asked my wife to ask me if I thought the earth was flat or might be flat. And you can laugh out loud at such a thing, but these are guys, they were all men, raised in the United States, who went to high school in the United States. And that is really troubling, that we, as a society, have let these people down. And it's really It's really surprising because this is a further division of our society, those with knowledge and those without knowledge. And by knowledge, I'm talking about just the world is round, you guys. The moon is round, Mars is round, the earth is round, crying out loud.
What do you think that is? What do you think that impulse is? Why are we seeing that? Why are we seeing people that have unprecedented access to actual facts and actual legitimate information preferring a theory like a flat earth?
Well, everybody wants, the way I describe this, everybody wants to have their own cosmology. By that, I mean their own understanding of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe, since you asked this question, I believe people take the shortest cut.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, if the earth is flat, then I can see everything. And I take out a flat map and I got the whole story. I don't need to go anywhere. All I need is my phone and off I go. But whereas the fact of the round earth is much harder to understand, and of course, much more exciting once you embrace it. And the other thing that really is cool for me is when people do get it, when people who are from a lower income community, people who don't have the access to the educational resources that, for example, I had, and they understand this, that the earth goes around the sun, and this is this remarkable, almost magical force of gravity. This is really exciting. Well, that's the whole thing, when you're a teacher and you see the spark in the students' eyes, that's the most rewarding thing. So it works both ways. That's all I'm saying. There's the frustration of the flat earth people, and there's the excitement of the kid from an underprivileged background who's going to go into aerospace. So it works both ways.
Yeah, that is exciting. Well, the thing we're kind of trying to focus on today is deceptively simple sounding but incredibly complicated question. We're getting basic with it. We're trying to ask, how do we know what we know? How do we know what's real? I know. This is us, Bill. After all these years, we're spitting epistemology to the kids who are now 34.
Epistemology and their ontology or whatever. Yeah. So how do you know what you know? This is, if I understand this, you guys, I'm not a formally trained philosopher.
Right.
If I understand this, this is the so-called justified true belief, the JT,
Okay.
right? So is that right?
I don't know. I'm not. Neither of us are philosophers here. So
Yeah,
we're
but
just asking the question.
that or everybody is like,
Right.
whoa. So how do you know what you know? There are certain things that seem to be objectively provable. The earth being round being among those things.
Mm-hmm.
And then the saying everything happens for a reason, and that reason is usually physics. We love that. And so then if you talk to enough physicists, they will argue that chemistry is just physics at the with particles running into each other and combining with each other and electromagnetic forces connecting these things. And therefore biology, which is based on chemistry, is also physics.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then does that mean that what you're thinking with your chemical brain is also physics, and therefore you can predict what it will do and what you will think, and you could predict what you will feel? That gets to be a lot harder question to answer. But it's important for everyone to ponder, because what you feel is really important as to how you'll behave.
Oh, for sure.
What choices you'll make.
Yeah.
And then that affects everybody around you.
Yeah, that is something we'll definitely get into. Man, I never thought about that, Bill. I never thought that like our thoughts, our feelings, love, music, the impulse to write a poem or something might be physics.
Yeah.
Already blowing my mind.
Look, I know you're wildly busy, and I know that because literally everyone is, and that's why I appreciate anything that can quietly make my life easier. And that's where Midea comes in. They make genuinely wow-worthy appliances that take the work off your plate. Like they've got that one-touch autofill French door fridge. You press a button, boop, fills your cup perfectly, like the Jetsons. And their dishwashers have a 3-stage total drying system, and they even pop open when you're done. The future is here. And the Midea range, well, it's 5 burners, 3 racks, and endless possibilities. So whether you're actually cooking or just really want to look like you're actually cooking, the point is, when the everyday stuff takes care of itself, you get time back for you and for your people and for doing absolutely nothing. And that is a win. So go to midea.com to see how you can bring home a little wow today. That's midea.com.
Okay, real talk. Every year I tell myself I'm going to be one of those adults who plans out their meals. And every year I end up not being that guy. You know, it's like I don't want dinner to have to be part of some grand lifestyle brand or something. I just want dinner to work. And that's what Marley Spoon gets so right. They give you like over 100 recipes to choose from every week. If you want comfort food, check. You want fresh and balanced, covered. And it's all chef designed, real ingredients. Nothing's like sad or diety. So they've also got prepared meals that you literally heat and eat. Done. Those are lifesavers. But they've also got these tray bake dinners where you put everything on a tray and you just bake it, and then boom, you look like someone who has it all together, all without giving up on flavor or variety. So it's dinner that fits your life, not the other way around. This year, fast track your way to eating well with Marley Spoon. Head to marleyspoon.com/offer/alive for up to 25 free meals. That's right, up to 25 free meals with Marley Spoon. That's marleyspoon.com/offer/alive for up to 25 free meals. So let's talk about the scientific method, right? And what that is, and how that can inform what we know is real, or help us decide what is real. What is the scientific method? What would you say?
That's a good verb. Help us decide what is real. So the scientific method for me is you observe something in nature.
Yeah.
And you wonder about this mythic thing, cause and effect. Like what made that happen? And so then you design a test to see if you can figure out what made that happen. Then you run the test. Then you compare what happened with what you thought would happen. And then you start over. That to me is the scientific method. And it's magical. And this seems to be what sets us apart from many, many, many other animals. You can make arguments about the acuity of crows or dolphins or what have you, but humans definitely have a lot more going on when it comes to making predictions about nature and creating tests and cause and effect. It's magical.
So a huge part of that I'm hearing is the testing part, right? So there's a hypothesis, and then you test it. And you, according to the results of that test, then you sort of re-strategize and start over, right?
You compare what you thought would happen with what happened. And everybody, you may have been trained in the scientific method, people watching and listening to this podcast. The scientific method, hypothesis. Maybe you'd have observation, hypothesis, experiment, conclusion. And that rigorous formulation or expression of the scientific method for me really came from infectious disease. From Louis Pasteur and Koch and those guys trying to figure out just where does this invisible sickness come from? Where did smallpox come from? Why did raw milk make people sick? Why is it that women who were milking cows who got cowpox didn't get smallpox? Trying to figure this out. was just takes tremendous rigor.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be really careful because germs are just too small to see.
Yeah.
And it's hard to believe, at least for me, for most of us, that this invisible thing can have such a profound effect on your health
Yeah.
and your life and death. And I think that's my belief that that's where this rigorous formulation of the scientific method originated.
There's been, like, I don't know, a gajillion studies about how faith in scientific institutions is eroding, right? Especially since 2020, I believe. I have stats. I don't like to do stats because I always feel like I'm going to get them wrong. But basically, I guess broadly, people still trust scientists and scientific information, but it is eroding quickly, right? And I think it's something like 75% of people, if you ask them, will say, yeah, science is cool. I'm into science. But that's way down in the last 5 years. Why do you think that is?
Well, I have some ideas about this, and keep in mind, everybody, my ideas are correct.
Okay, we'll keep that in mind.
That's irony, everyone. Okay, that's irony. But what's happened here in the U.S. is over the last 50 years or so, we have agreed that gerrymandering voting districts, that dividing voting districts based on how people feel or their income level or where they go to public and then private universities is a good way to organize our government with these voting districts that are a tortured shape on a map, geographically misshapen voting districts. And this has polarized the country. Both sides gerrymander, to be sure. But the way it's gone right now, it's really favored people who are not open to change. A key to the U.S. government is, which is akin to the scientific method, is change. In science, or the practice of science, or the body of knowledge of science, there's change. That's the whole idea. People didn't know there was Pluto. Then Pluto was found, and it's very shiny. It's covered with nitrogen ice, so it was presumed to be a full-size planet. It turns out to be smaller than Earth's moon. So let's say it's not a full-size planet anymore. Now it's a dwarf planet. And I mention that because it's change. It's just nomenclature, but it is change, and it changes the way you perceive the solar system and the cosmos and our place within it. And it's an example of, so how to say, low stakes change.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, and I like that. I like relating representative democracy to the scientific process. I think that's really cool and really well said and really true because the greatest strength of the scientific process, as you were describing, it seems to me, its ability and its willingness to be wrong. And in fact,
Yeah.
and I think that its ability and willingness to be wrong so that there can be appropriate change, right? And I think that is true. I think that is a great strength of both processes. Now, something you also said that was really interesting to me was this concept of intellectual shortcuts and how that's a problem. And I wonder how that relates to the rise of widespread conspiracy thought today.
So in order to become, for example, an expert on infectious disease, you got to spend years. And the people who are experts on immunology, or the people who created these messenger RNA ribonucleic acid vaccines, spent decades messing with it. Many of them went to high school where they hustled and got good grades on standardized tests. Then they got into good institutions with good medical departments. Then they got master's degrees, and then they got PhDs, and that takes years.
Yeah.
And in the case of infectious disease or vaccine development, it's discipline and diligence and dinking around with petri dish after petri dish and little plastic vial and centrifuge after little plastic vial and centrifuge, protein after protein. And so there is not an intellectual shortcut to develop an mRNA vaccine. And so I won't say people are lazy, but just life being what it is, you're raising a family, you're trying to get to work, whatever it is, we all tend to look for those shortcuts. And
Yeah.
what's happened is people have embraced the shortcuts and presumed that since you can find so much information electronically so easily now, that the information you can find about something like mRNA vaccines is necessarily true, because for what the capital of Wisconsin is easily available on the internet, then some fact about mRNA and autism is accessible on the internet as well. But the internet has also given us this ability to make misinformation at an extraordinary rate, even automate the creation of misinformation. Like, wow, dude, it's
Yeah. I
crazy.
mean, that's why I feel like this stuff is so important to talk about, honestly, is I think we're about to get completely inundated and overwhelmed with an intergalactic fire hose of stuff.
If we could teach one thing, it would be the expression, you threw it out, the phrase earlier, critical thinking.
Yeah.
When I was in school, that phrase wasn't popular or wasn't around. I think it was called logic or logical reasoning or something like that. But whatever, it's the ability or the habit of mind to evaluate evidence. When somebody tells you something, is it true or not? You got to stop and think. Somebody says
habit of mind.
flat. It looks flat, but if you spend more time with it, you find out it's not flat. And it looks like certain vaccines cause autism, but after more careful studies can prove that that is absolutely not the case, that autism is not caused by vaccines. Get over it. And it's very personal. If it's your kid involved in this case, if it's your kid involved, you're looking for cause and effect, and you're looking for somebody to blame. And
Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, I read somewhere that I think 50% of people will say that they believe at least one conspiracy theory, and wait, I guess what I'm wondering is, when does it become a conspiracy theory? What makes it conspiratorial in your mind?
well, I think for me, it's when people have the idea that it's a small group of people who keep things secret that are running things, and these people
Right.
are running things. And my feeling is, if only there were 60 people in the conspiracy controlling the world, and we just go meet with those 60 people and tell them to cut it out, and we just move on. But that's it's more complicated than that. I'm here on Capitol Hill in the United States today, and these people are just butt heads all day, and it's not a conspiracy so much as a constant argument.
I always see it as like, basically what you're saying, you work backwards from a bias that you like. You work backwards from a story that you like. There's something that rings true to you. There's something that feels correct to you. And then you just defend that position at the expense of evidence that might challenge it, right?
We fight it in science all the time. Just try to overcome your bias.
Why is that so hard? Why is it so hard to do that?
Because you want the experiment to come out the way you predicted, and then you move on. But if it doesn't, it's difficult. But of course, people talk about the aha moments and these amazing discoveries, but those are pretty few and far between. It's mostly just chipping away.
Right. Do you think there's more conspiracy thought right now than there ever was? Or do you think it's just because the internet amplifies it and lets us see it more?
Well, the other thing, there actually are conspiracies. I mean, people worked together to kill Abraham Lincoln. They
Yep.
were, after the assassin got away, people gave him a place to stay and fed him and stuff. There was a conspiracy. There were people in on it, but there also are small organizations trying to make big changes, which might be conspiratorial. But I think if I understand your question, it's people looking for shortcuts, that there's some hidden group of people that has outsized control over events. And it's just really frustrating. I'll just tell you guys, I'm here in Capitol Hill and this stuff with NASA. People are talking about the Space Force and the Chinese National Space Administration and so on. There's just a lot of stuff flying, a lot of satellites. The Army has satellites. The Navy has satellites. The National Security Agency has satellites. They don't talk to each other very much. And so when there's something in the sky and you don't know what it is, it's almost certainly something that humans made, and they just haven't told each other what it is. And this leads to conspiratorial thinking. Somebody's keeping something secret from you, so you presume they're doing it with malicious intent.
Habit and motivation are very different, right? Motivation is kind of fickle. It shows up real strong in January, kind of disappears by February. Habit's something different. Habit kind of shows up whether you're thinking about it or not, and that can be a very positive thing. And AG1 is one of the easiest habits that you can start right now, because most supplement routines are kind of chaotic, right? They're like, add 1 scoop here, but not with coffee or with food. Take 14 pills, but only in the morning on a Tuesday. But AG1 simplifies the whole thing. It's got multivitamin, pre and probiotics, superfoods, antioxidants, all in 1 scoop. And the next gen formula adds even more clinically backed vitamins and minerals to fill those common nutrient gaps, which is especially important when it is winter outside. AG1 has over 50,000 verified 5-star reviews and comes with a 90-day money-back guarantee. For a limited time, go to drinkag1.com/live to get a free AG1 flavor sampler and AGZ sampler to try all the flavors, plus free vitamin D3 plus K2 and AG1 welcome kit with your first AG1 subscription order. This is a limited time offer, only available while supplies last. That's drinkag1.com/alive. drinkag1.com/alive. Swapping in Hero Bread's tortillas or bagels lets me, cut down on net carbs, sugar, and calories while getting real fiber and real protein. And here's the wild part. You would never know that you cut anything out. This is not like that weird cardboard health bread. I was prepared to be disappointed, and I was definitely not. Their bagels are perfect, actually, for like a breakfast sandwich, which I love. And I recently did, it's freezing out here, so I recently did like a grilled cheese and soup scenario. Fantastic. And they've got these small batch drops, like a 2-gram net carb croissant and a 1-gram net carb buttermilk biscuit that basically sell out on arrival. Hero Bread, no compromises, just flavor. This year, hit your goals without giving up your favorite bready dishes. Hero Bread is offering 10% off your order. Go to hero.co and use code STEVE at checkout. That's Steve at HERO.co. But my question, at least what I always wonder as it relates to conspiratorial thought, we'll use your satellites as an example, right? You look up in the sky and you see something blinky and it's moving in a way that you don't know. You simply don't know what that is. And instead of really doing the work to find out what that is, I can see how it's very tempting to say that is an alien aircraft. And I like that story. It's exciting to me, it's entertaining to me, and it seems to, as you say, be a shortcut to everything that feels true to me. What frustrates me, Bill, is once you arrive there at a narrative that you prefer, what frustrates me is when people then defend it and die on that hill. Instead of saying, oh, this might be true, let me use what we were discussing before, the scientific process. Let me test this. Let me see if I can replicate that result. Let me see if I can, what I would say, actually know if that's a thing. People just stop at the story now that they like. And that has all sorts of negative consequences. And it really frustrates me, for sure.
Well, you should do a podcast about it. Wait, here we are. Yeah, so you're chipping away at the problem. And we just got to raise awareness. And we have to, writ large, I guess, we have to get trust again in expertise. And that's going to take everybody, it's going to take voting. We've got to reestablish trust and expertise. And the trouble is, it takes time to become an expert. It takes time and resources and effort.
Well, there's actually a disconnect that I see sometimes where
that's what voting. Here we're in U.S. Congress. That's the call for a vote in the back. That's,
is it really?
No, it is. Yeah. I'm in Representative Whitesides' office. He's down on the floor of the U.S. Congress voting, and his staff lent me this office. So thank you.
No way. So that's how they vote? They send, like, someone puts a foghorn on Capitol Hill and everyone says, I must vote now, and they come running?
Yeah, and there's all these crazy clocks with the symbol of dots that tells you when to vote. There's the clock. Let's see if I can do it. There's the clock with the little lights. Yeah.
Look at the civics lessons that we weren't expecting to get today, Bill. You always deliver.
Well, another thing that would be really good is the civics lessons. I show this to members of Congress all the time and their staffs, and they're unfamiliar with this. So everybody, the U.S. Constitution, as I like to joke, available in paperback. Mm-hmm. And I show everybody this. So Article 1 is the role of the legislative branch, the Congress, not the president or the courts, but the legislative branch. So it goes on. Article 4 is about voting the Senate. Section 8, Clause 8. Congress is to promote the progress of science and useful arts.
That's in the Constitution.
Yes, the word science in 1787. These guys say whatever else. I know there are some problems with the founders. I understand there are some issues, but this is an amazing idea. They put the word science, not natural philosopher. Science is in the Constitution. And I was in an office this morning. I didn't know it was there. I know you're a freaking congressman and you're the staff and you haven't read this thing. It's, you can get it at the bookstore, and they usually have stacks of them at the front desk here in U.S. Congress. And useful arts to me is an 18th century expression that meant engineering, using science to make stuff.
Yeah.
Let's build a bridge. Let's make a plow. Let's temper steel so that the knife stays sharp, whatever it is. Useful arts.
I was unaware that science in the scientific process is baked into the DNA of our actual Constitution. That's really cool.
They realize the value of science to our health, well-being, and especially everybody today on Capitol Hill talking about the NASA budget, our international competitiveness.
So I hear your frustration, and I share a lot of it, right? I want to go back to an example you used of, say, a mother, right, with a sick child who is looking for answers because it's difficult to conceive of anything more painful than what she's going through, right? I have enormous empathy for that. And it's easy to empathize with that situation. How do we balance, how do I say this? How do we balance compassion for why someone might believe something demonstrably false, right? With the same need to challenge misinformation.
So here's a problem people on our side or my side have. You might expect that after you have somebody who asks you, do you think the earth could be flat? You might expect that after you show them a classroom globe or you take them to an airport and have them look at the list of destinations that includes, London, Sydney, Australia, Lagos, Nigeria, and how would you get to these places if the world were not round, and so on. And what about how could it be a different time in Tokyo than it is in Mexico City or what have you? And so you might expect that after you show somebody evidence, they would change their mind. Everything's fine. Oh, good. Thank you. He showed me the world is round. I've changed my worldview. I'm moving on. But it's not human nature.
Right.
It takes a couple years for people. You have to be shown, in my opinion, have to be shown the evidence over and over.
Yeah.
And the example that for me is just classic is people who embrace astrology.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the 2,000-year-old presumption that the motion of planets affects people's personalities, and there's only 12 personality types, or there are specifically 12 personality types.
Right.
And then depending on the time of year you're born, you're going to be like this. Even after the Earth wobbles, as it does 24,700 years or whatever, and all the constellations have shifted one to the west, they still embrace the 2,000-year-old personality descriptions. It takes a long time for people who have grown up with an astrological point of view to let go of that.
To let go of the story that they like. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if somebody believes in ghosts, it takes a long time to get them to let go of ghosts. Somebody believes their ancestor is watching over them or has a plan for their life. It takes a long time to get people to let go of that. So for people on my side, you got to go into it with expectations that this is a big problem that's not solved with the wave of a hand.
I believe firmly that we need to be asking these questions and stuff. And I know you got to go here in a minute. So the last thing I really want to get to is something that I've heard you say that I adore, right? And that's that the universe is knowable. And that is a wonderful, wonderful thing. I don't know why, but just saying the universe is knowable fills me with instant curiosity and a sense of wonder and even joy. I love that idea. But there are people for whom that is a threatening idea. The concept that a knowable universe sort of erodes their sense of mystery. I think they're kind of the same thing.
People are very troubled by the idea that humankind doesn't know it all and doesn't have all the answers. And so I'll just give you an example, just because we're here talking about NASA and so on. When all four of my grandparents were born in the 19th century. All four of my grandparents were born in the 1800s. Dude, that's so long. I know, it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
They didn't know there was relativity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let alone the consequences of it that we now have in your mobile phone. This is to say, all the timing that modern computers, including this phone call or video call, rely on, all that depends on both special relativity, the speed of time caused by Earth or affected by Earth's gravity, and special relativity, the speed of time is affected by the spacecraft's speed above the Earth's surface. Okay. Everybody's running around talking about dark matter.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows what it is.
Right.
And then they'll say, well, it's dark energy. I would not be surprised if in 30 years somebody does know what it is. And it does have practical consequences for your phone or your cookbook or whatever the heck it is.
Yep.
Your water purification system. It wouldn't surprise me at all. And so it's an example for me. It's an example of something we do not know. We have seen evidence of it, but we do not know what causes it. And some people immediately jump to, well, that means that there's, I met some people, that means that there's telepathy, that we have mental abilities to communicate in a way that's completely not known to science.
I don't get that. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, well, but in other words, since you don't know this one thing, then therefore it's explained by this other unknown thing.
But that's
is just
broken logic. You know what I mean? So that seems insufficient to me to form a belief. That's to me, right? And I think we do ourselves a disservice if we simply jump to an answer that we prefer and defend it and just decide that we're unpersuadable because we like it, not because of facts, not because of evidence.
Well, so there you go. But the example where you really do have to push back against this, if you're a parent, why are we doing that? Because I said so. Okay, that's why we're going. That's why we're going to your grandmother's house, and we are going to enjoy it, and just like.
Well, listen, Bill. You know,
half everybody. Half.
If
3/8.
If the universe is knowable and we live.
That's the premise of science. If
I know.
It turns out it's not knowable, that will be a new thing. Every time we find something we don't know, humankind does eventually figure it out. So if you're looking at the history of humankind and science, every time we think we don't know something about the universe, we have figured it out.
How exciting is that, right? If the universe is knowable and also infinite, there are infinite things to know. What could be more exciting than that? And hey, man, I know you got to go. I love talking to you. I would do this a million more times. I have so many more questions for you. A gazillion.
Let's do it again soon.
Yeah, we will, man. And thank you for defending NASA. I think that's great. And go get them, Bill.
Thanks, you guys. Let's change the world. Carry on.
Bye.
Thanks, Steve. All right, man.
Wow. Bill's great, right? I always love talking to him. Always. And there's one thing he said that really stuck with me. He called logic and critical thinking a habit of the mind. And I love that because our minds do form habits, right? We know that they do. The mind can be trained. We can train our minds to look for evidence or to simply look for things that agree with what we already assume we know. We can train our minds to ask difficult questions or settle for easy answers. So, I guess the question I have for you is, what are the habits of your mind? Fascinating. Fascinating. Thanks for stopping by. This means a lot to me. It truly does. I'll see you next time, and you look great.
Alive with Steve Burns is a Lemonada Media original. If you haven't subscribed to Lemonada Premium yet, now's the perfect time. You can listen to the show completely ad-free, plus you'll unlock exclusive bonus content from me as I reflect on this episode. Just press subscribe on Apple Podcasts, head to lemonadapremium.com to subscribe on any other app, or listen ad-free on Amazon Music with your Prime membership. That's lemonadapremium.com. Alive is hosted by me, Steve Burns, and produced by Jeremy Slutskin. Our editor is Christopher Champion Morgan. Our associate producer is Akshaz Tharabailu. Audio engineering by James Sparber. Lemonada's SVP of weekly programming is Steve Nelson. Executive producers are Jessica Cordova-Kramer, Stephanie Whittles-Wax, and me. We'll see you next week. And you look great, by the way.